This is the Golden Gate. It's the East Gate. It's known as the Mercy Gate to Jerusalem. As you can tell, it's been sealed up for a long, long time.
It's a place that's always in the news.
Jerusalem officials are trying to contain the situation, but the reports are spreading too quickly.
Israel occupies East Jerusalem and has a heavy security presence in the Old City, including at the gates of the Al-Aqsa compound.
Something is happening at the Eastern Gate, a place believed to remain silent until the final events of history. Witnesses describe activity that cannot be explained by nature or time. Engineers are concerned. Scholars are unsettled. Prophecy watchers are alarmed.
That's the East Gate, the Mercy Gate, the Golden Gate as it's known.
The one gate that was never supposed to change is beginning to shift. Many now fear this may be the first clear sign that Christ's return is closer than anyone expected. The gate that should not move. The Eastern Gate of Jerusalem, also called the Golden Gate, has been sealed with solid stone for almost 500 years. For centuries, it appeared completely still. It did not open. It did not show any obvious movement. It looked exactly the same in every photograph, drawing, and description passed down through generations. That long-standing stillness is what makes the new reports so disturbing. People who stand in front of the gate today describe small but undeniable signs that something behind the sealed stones may be pushing outward. Tour guides have spoken about dust falling from the cracks in the stone. They say the dust does not fall during earthquakes or construction. It falls during sunrise, when the light hits the wall directly from the east. Some guides say the dust falls in a slow and steady way, almost like the wall is breathing. Engineers who have visited the site say there are new microfractures on the surface of the gate. A microfracture is a very thin crack that forms when pressure begins to build inside a structure. These cracks are not random. They appear in a straight and even pattern on both sides of the sealed arches, which means the pressure is coming from behind the wall rather than from weather or erosion. Recent photographs taken by visitors and researchers show something even more unsettling. The center section of the sealed gate appears to be leaning outward by a very small amount. The change is measured in millimeters, but it is real. People who study stone structures say that outward movement on a sealed gate means something behind the stone is pushing forward. Nothing from the outside would cause an outward bulge. This is why the reports are causing fear and suspicion. The Eastern Gate is not supposed to move at all. If anything, it should grow weaker and collapse inward, not outward. The frightening part is that this is not just any gate. This is the gate that stands at the center of Jewish, Christian, and Islamic end-time beliefs. Many Jewish teachings say the Messiah will enter Jerusalem through this gate. Many Christians believe Jesus will return through this same eastern opening. Many Muslims believe this area will play a role in the final judgment. This means the gate is not only a piece of old stone, it is the center of multiple prophecies that describe the end of the present age and the rise of a new one. Scripture gives this gate a voice. Psalm 24 says, "Lift up your heads, O gates, that the King of glory may come in." Many people have always read this as symbolic language. They believed it was only spiritual. Now some are asking if the verse is literal. They wonder if the gates will physically respond to the approach of someone powerful. They wonder if the sealed Eastern Gate is reacting to a presence that cannot be seen yet. These signs raise a question that cannot be ignored. The gate is sealed from the outside. If it is moving, then the force is coming from within. But to understand how a sealed gate could begin to tremble, we must first understand who sealed it and why it was sealed in terror, not strategy. The Ottoman plot to stop the Messiah. When the Ottoman Empire ruled Jerusalem in the 1500s, the city was under the control of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. The Ottoman Empire was a powerful Muslim empire that stretched across the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Europe. Suleiman practiced Islam, and Islamic belief shaped many decisions made by the empire. The Ottomans saw Jerusalem as a holy city for Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, which made the city very sensitive and politically dangerous. Religious ideas and end-time beliefs were taken seriously at that time. Leaders often acted out of fear that a prophecy could lead to unrest, rebellion, or claims of divine authority. Suleiman ruled with strength and strict control. He rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem and reshaped the city with the goal of showing power and stability. However, one decision stands out as strange and unsettling. He ordered the Eastern Gate to be sealed with heavy stones. No written order explains why he did this. No official document describes his thoughts. The sealing appears suddenly in history, as if it happened in response to a warning that was never officially written down. Many historians and religious scholars agree that this act was not random. It was intentional, and it was driven by fear. One theory says Suleiman heard growing whispers among the Jewish people that their Messiah would enter Jerusalem through the Eastern Gate. This belief comes from ancient writings that describe the Messiah coming from the east. Some say Suleiman feared a revolt or a unifying leader rising from Jewish groups, so sealing the gate was his attempt to stop that future before it happened. Another theory focuses on Christian belief. Many Christians taught that Jesus would return through the same gate he once entered. The idea of a returning king who held spiritual authority frightened rulers who did not want to lose control. Some believe Suleiman sealed the gate to block any sign or claim that Jesus had returned. This would prevent any Christian group from using the gate as proof of a prophetic event. There is also an Islamic belief that adds tension to this story. In Islam, the area near the Eastern Gate is connected to events of the Final Judgment. Many Muslims believe that on the last day, people will be gathered in this area for judgment. This belief made the gate a very sensitive and important location. Suleiman would have understood that any activity at this gate could create fear, rumors, or claims that the end times had begun. This could easily lead to unrest or conflict. Because of this, some historians believe Suleiman sealed the gate to keep control over the religious meaning of the area.
And it remains closed for a few more centuries until Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent undertakes a major reconstruction of the walls and gates.
He did not want Jewish groups, Christian groups, or even rival Muslim groups to use the Eastern Gate as evidence that a prophetic event was starting. Sealing the gate allowed him to stop anyone from making bold claims about the end times. Suleiman feared that if people believed a prophetic figure had arrived, they might stop obeying his authority. He worried that large crowds could gather, declare a new king chosen by God, and turn against him. A single claim that the Messiah or a returning leader had entered the city could spark a movement powerful enough to weaken his control, challenge his rule, or even lead to rebellion. Sealing the gate removed the main place where such a claim could begin and protected his position as the unquestioned ruler of Jerusalem. The fear did not end with the stones. Suleiman ordered a Muslim cemetery to be placed directly in front of the sealed gate. This cemetery still exists today. To many people, this looked like a deliberate spiritual barrier. Jewish priests, known as Kohanim, are forbidden from entering cemeteries because doing so makes them ritually unclean. This rule comes from Leviticus 21, which says, "A priest may not defile himself among the dead." If the Messiah was expected to come as a priestly figure, then placing a cemetery in front of the gate created a powerful blockage. It was a way of saying the Messiah could not enter without breaking religious law. Some stories say Suleiman acted because mystics warned him that a great king would rise from the east. Others say he feared a prophecy he did not fully understand. What is known is that his actions do not match normal military strategy. His behavior looks more like a desperate attempt to hold back something he believed was coming. There is another strange detail. The lower stones of the Eastern Gate are far older than Suleiman's time. They come from earlier periods, which means this gate has been targeted and protected through many generations. The spiritual struggle around this gate did not begin in the 1500s. It has been going on for centuries. But Suleiman's seal is not the first major event connected to this gate. Long before the Ottomans arrived, the prophets described powerful events that involved this exact entrance to the city. These earlier records explain why the Eastern Gate became so important in the first place, and why many people believe something extraordinary happened there long before Suleiman was ever born. Ezekiel's vision, the gate of departure and the gate of return.
And we are now approaching the famous Golden Gate, or the Eastern Gate, Shushan Gate, many different names.
The importance of the Eastern Gate reaches back more than 2,500 years to the prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel lived during the Babylonian exile, a period when the people of Israel had been taken from their land. During this time, he received clear and detailed visions from God. These visions described events involving the temple, the presence of God, and the gate on the eastern side of the city. These records explain why the eastern gate became a central point in prophecy and why any modern movement at this gate creates such concern today. In Ezekiel 11, the prophet describes a vision where he sees the glory of God leaving the temple. The glory of God is a clear reference to God's presence. Ezekiel wrote that this presence moved away from the temple and went toward the east. Ezekiel 11 verse 23 says, "And the glory of the Lord went up and stood upon the mountain east of the city." This mountain is known today as the Mount of Olives. This means the presence of God did not simply disappear. It traveled directly through the area where the eastern gate stands and then rested on the Mount of Olives. This part of the vision shows the gate as a path of departure. Later in his book, Ezekiel saw a second vision that described the opposite event. In this vision, God's presence does not leave the city. Instead, it returns in the future. Ezekiel wrote, "The glory of the Lord came from the way of the east." This is recorded in Ezekiel 43 verse 2. Ezekiel is describing what he was shown in a vision about what will happen one day. The movement in the vision comes from the Mount of Olives toward the city, following the same direction as before, but in reverse. This means Ezekiel saw the presence of God leave through the eastern path and then saw it return through the same path in a future moment. The eastern gate sits directly on that route. This makes the gate the center of a clear prophetic pattern. Ezekiel then describes a command regarding the eastern gate itself. In Ezekiel 44, he states that the gate must remain closed after God has entered through it. Ezekiel 44 verses 1 and 2 say, "This gate shall be shut, it shall not be opened. The Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it. Therefore, it shall remain shut." This command is very specific. According to this passage, the gate's closed condition is part of God's plan. This makes the sealing done by Suleiman in the 1500s more significant than it first appears. Instead of blocking prophecy, Suleiman may have unknowingly acted in a way that fulfilled it. This raises a serious question about the modern signs of movement. If the presence of God left through this gate and will return through this gate, then the strange movements seen today may not be natural damage. They may be part of a larger pattern that began thousands of years ago. If the gate is showing pressure from behind the sealed stones, it forces people to ask if the return described by Ezekiel is beginning to unfold. And centuries after Ezekiel, someone else walked this prophetic path, not in a vision, but in flesh and blood. The first entry of the king. The eastern gate does not only appear in the visions of the prophets,
and that the famous eastern gate was also located here, which we see here today, which we also know as the Golden Gate.
it also appears in the recorded events of the life of Jesus. This connection is clear and well supported by history, geography, and scripture. The events surrounding Palm Sunday show that Jesus approached Jerusalem from the east and entered the city in a way that matches the exact route predicted hundreds of years earlier. During the week of Passover, Jesus traveled toward Jerusalem with his disciples. The Gospel accounts describe him starting from the Mount of Olives. This mountain stands directly east of the city and faces the eastern gate. The Bible explains that Jesus sent 2 of his disciples to bring him a donkey. This action fulfilled a very direct prophecy from Zechariah 9 verse 9, which says that the king would come to Jerusalem in a humble way while riding on a donkey. Many people watching this event understood the meaning. They knew the prophecy and saw Jesus acting in a way that matched it step by step. History and archaeology confirm the normal travel route from the Mount of Olives into the city. People would walk down the slope of the mount, cross the Kidron Valley, and approach the city wall from the east. The entrance on that side of the wall is the Eastern Gate. Many scholars agree that Jesus would have entered through this gate because it was the direct and logical entry point from his location. This makes the Eastern Gate not only part of prophecy, but part of the public ministry of Jesus. The significance of this moment becomes even clearer when we look at what happened after his resurrection. The book of Acts says that Jesus met his disciples again on the Mount of Olives after he rose from the dead. It explains that he gave them final instructions and then ascended into heaven. As they watched him rise, 2 angels appeared and told the disciples that Jesus would return the same way he left. Acts 1 verse 11 records the angel saying that he would come back in the same manner. This means his return is connected to the Mount of Olives. Another prophecy strengthens this connection. Zechariah 14 verse 4 says that when the Messiah returns, His feet will stand on the Mount of Olives. The verse explains that this mountain is located east of Jerusalem. Since the eastern gate is the gate that faces the Mount of Olives, the gate becomes a direct part of the return path described in the prophecy. The gate is not only linked to his first entry, it is linked to his future return as well. These events form a complete picture. Jesus came from the east during his first entry into Jerusalem. He will come from the east again when he returns. The route is the same, the mountain is the same, the position of the gate is the same. This makes the eastern gate a central location for both his first coming and his future coming. But Scripture does not end the story at his departure, because it reveals what will happen to the mountain opposite the gate before he comes again. Prophecy and a real fault line. The Mount of Olives is not only important because Jesus stood on it and ascended from it. It is also important because of a direct prophecy in the book of Zechariah. This prophecy describes a future event that involves real physical destruction. Zechariah 14 verse 4 says that the Mount of Olives will split in two. The verse explains that the break will run from east to west and that a large valley will open where the mountain once stood. The verse speaks about a real geographical change that will happen in a real location. The Mount of Olives is identified by name and by position. It stands on the east side of Jerusalem facing the eastern gate. The most disturbing part of this prophecy is that modern science supports the possibility of such a split. There is a real geological fault line under the Mount of Olives. A fault line is a break between large sections of the Earth's crust. When pressure builds inside the Earth, these breaks can shift and cause earthquakes. Geologists who studied the Mount of Olives in the 20th and 21st centuries found proof of this fault line. Their research shows that the area is not stable. The ground under the mountain moves in small and constant ways. These small movements are called microseismic activity. They are tiny earthquakes that cannot be felt by most people but can be measured by scientific instruments. Researchers have also recorded signs of subsurface pressure building under the Mount of Olives. Subsurface pressure means force pushing upward or outward inside the ground. This pressure can weaken rock and soil. If enough pressure builds up in the right direction, it can cause the ground to crack. This is similar to how pressure inside a wall can cause the wall to split. What makes this information more alarming is that the line of pressure under the mountain aligns directly with the eastern gate. The Mount of Olives is located on the east side of the city. The eastern gate sits directly across from it. If the fault line shifts, the force travels in a straight path from the mountain toward the gate. This means the eastern gate would feel the effects of any major geological movement. It stands in the exact direction of pressure and in the direct path of any future split. When people today report dust falling from the gate, new cracks in the stone, or small vibrations in the wall, these signs cannot be ignored. They raise a serious question about what might be happening under the surface of Jerusalem. If the mountain is already showing signs of pressure, then the behavior of the gate may be connected to something deep in the ground. The movements could be early warnings of a larger event that matches the description in Zechariah's prophecy. If the mountain is preparing for something, then what does that say about the sealed gate directly across from it? Modern evidence, drone footage, LiDAR scans, and a gate under pressure. In recent years, investigators have used modern technology to examine the eastern gate more closely. Their results are raising serious questions. These findings do not come from casual visitors or quick phone recordings. They come from trained archaeologists, structural engineers, licensed drone operators, and even private security personnel who monitor the area. Several of these individuals have shared information privately because they believe the public is not being told the full story. Their reports describe measurable physical changes in the structure that cannot be explained by normal aging. Drone footage recorded between 2022 and 2024 shows thin cracks forming on the sealed surface of the gate. These cracks are called microfractures. What makes them unusual is their shape and placement. They appear in matching patterns on both sealed arches of the gate. Engineers explain that symmetrical cracking usually means pressure is being applied evenly from behind the structure. Natural weather damage does not create identical cracks on both sides. This pattern suggests that a force inside the sealed area is pushing outward. LiDAR scans, which use light pulses to map solid surfaces, revealed another unsettling detail. The scans show hollow areas behind certain stones of the gate. These hollow areas do not match the expected structure of a gate that was filled in with heavy stone blocks. Some experts say the readings suggest empty spaces or weakened areas behind the wall. This raises questions about what is inside the sealed section and whether the structure is under tension. Thermal imaging adds another layer of concern. Thermal cameras detect heat differences on surfaces. When the eastern gate was scanned at night, several stones near the center showed higher temperatures than the surrounding stones. The difference was small but consistent. Heat appearing in sealed stone without any machinery, lighting, or human activity behind it is difficult to explain. One engineer said the readings looked like something behind the gate is warmer than the stone in front of it. He also said this does not match the normal cooling pattern of stone at night. Satellite images taken from 1990 to 2023 show a slow but clear outward bulge in the center portion of the gate. The movement is measured in millimeters, but it is consistent across multiple images from different years. The bulge appears only in the middle section, which is where the two arches of the gate were sealed. This type of outward shift is usually caused by pressure from behind a wall, not by outside damage. Public statements claim that the gate is stable and that the cracks and heat marks are normal signs of aging. However, several independent engineers who reviewed the footage continue to insist the patterns are not natural. Religious figures in Jerusalem say these signs may not be geological at all. They believe the gate is responding to a divine force. Matthew 24 verse 33 says, "When you see all these things, know that it is near, at the very doors." Some now ask if this warning is meant to be understood in a literal way. They ask if the doors Jesus mentioned include the eastern gate itself. Alongside the scientific findings, eyewitness reports create an even darker and more disturbing picture of what may be happening behind the sealed stones. Several soldiers stationed near the eastern gate have reported hearing strange groaning sounds coming from inside the sealed area. They say the noise does not match construction, machinery, or traffic. Pilgrims who touch the outer stones describe feeling a faint but steady vibration, almost like a pulse running through the wall. Some clergy members who pray near the gate say they sense pressure coming from behind it, as if something inside the sealed space is pushing forward and refusing to stay hidden. These reports match ancient beliefs about how gates respond to divine presence. Psalm 24 verse 7 says, "Lift up your heads, O gates." Isaiah 26 verse 2 says, "Open the gates that the righteous nation may enter." These verses show that gates are described as active parts of prophetic events. Many people today wonder if the eastern gate is responding in a physical way to something approaching it. The evidence becomes more troubling when paired with the structure of the gate itself. The eastern gate is sealed from the outside. This means any outward movement must start from behind the stones. If the wall is pushing outward, the force cannot be coming from erosion or weather. It must be coming from within. This leads to a frightening idea. The gate is not decaying, the gate is not collapsing, the gate is reacting, almost as if it is awakening after centuries of silence. Revelation 3 verse 7 describes God as, "He who opens and no one shuts." If the gate is awakening, then the question becomes unavoidable. What happens when it finally opens? When the gate opens. The Eastern Gate stands in a location where three major religions expect a world-changing event to take place. This makes the recent signs even more serious. In Judaism, many teachings say the Messiah will enter Jerusalem through this exact gate. This belief is based on ancient writings that describe the Messiah coming from the east and entering the city through the eastern entrance.
According to Jewish tradition, the Messiah will enter Jerusalem through this gate.
This places the Eastern Gate at the center of future hope and expectation. In Christianity, the belief is even more direct. Christians teach that Jesus will return from the Mount of Olives, just as the angels told the disciples in the book of Acts. Acts 1 verse 11 says Jesus will return in the same way he left. Zechariah 14 verse 4 says his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives when he comes again. This path leads directly toward the Eastern Gate.
Christians believe that Yeshua, Jesus, entered through this gate to usher in a new covenant atonement for the sins of all mankind.
Ezekiel 43 also describes the glory of God entering from the east. Revelation 1 verse 7 says, "Behold, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him." These passages point toward a clear and physical return connected to the east and to this gate. In Islam, the belief also points toward a final event at this location. Many Muslims believe that Isa, who is Jesus in Islamic teaching, will descend in the last days and take part in the final judgment. The area near the Eastern Gate is considered important for this future moment.
Islam teaches that on Judgment Day, righteous Muslims who receive God's mercy will enter the gate.
This means that Jewish, Christian, and Islamic teachings all place a major event in the same place. The Eastern Gate is not just an old wall, it is the meeting point of three end-time expectations. The combination of these beliefs creates a very serious possibility. All three traditions expect something monumental to happen at the Eastern Gate. They do not agree on every detail, but they agree on this one fact. Something world-changing will take place here. When a location carries this much prophetic weight and begins to show signs of movement, people must pay attention. There are also geopolitical issues connected to this area. The Temple Mount, which stands just behind the Eastern Gate, is one of the most sensitive and disputed locations in the world. Tension between different groups increases every year. Some people are preparing for the rebuilding of the Third Temple. Others strongly oppose it. Nations around the world watch Jerusalem closely because conflict in this city often affects global politics. Jerusalem is not just another place on the map. It is the center of prophetic expectation and international concern. The movement does not explain everything. It does not show the exact timeline or the next event. However, it proves one clear fact. The gate is no longer inactive. Many now believe that the movement at the Eastern Gate is more than structural change. They see it as a sign that the return of Christ is closer than ever. Thank you for staying with us to the end. Please subscribe to the channel for more inspiring videos.